Dead Cells, a game where you can hit a samurai crab with a frying pan. This roguelike action platform makes you experience all stages of the Dunning-Kruger effect firsthand. Remember, overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. Playing it makes the dopamine receptors light up like a gender reveal party on the 4th of July, so it's an actual miracle that I somehow was able to put the game down long enough to create this review. It is also a game I suck at badly. I mean, I would consider myself a pretty decent gamer, but this game kicks my ass, even on the base difficulty, which is no wonder, since kill, die, learn, repeat is not just friendly advice, it is the actual slogan of the game. But we'll talk more about the literal CBT this game is later. Lore! So lore, I'm gonna keep it real with you. The lore is entirely made up on the go and pretty much optional. It includes alchemical super drugs, a magic zombie virus, an asshole king, and the whole thing is actually part of the Groundhog Day cinematic universe, so you probably shouldn't take it too seriously. Also, since Dead Cells follows the Miyazaki school of design, you have to piece the story together from all the lore nuggets the game occasionally throws at you. And what I mean by that is that you go on YouTube and watch a story summary there, just like Miyazaki intended. But I'm also gonna give you a shitty summary anyway, because you can't stop me. You play as John Dead Cells, an amorphous homunculus with the ability to take over dead bodies and a burning hatred for doors. Waking up in the prison quarters somewhere in the mysterious island kingdom of England, you realize rather quickly that something isn't quite right. That's because a terrible plague has befallen the entire island. This malaise spreads through the water or rats. The game itself isn't too sure about that, but what we know for sure is that not only is it very deadly, but it also transforms the people and animals that are infected, making them hollow shells of their former self, rapidly mutating them and giving crabs the ability to bear katanas. The king of the island understandably isn't too happy about this and ordered his men to quarantine the affected into the prison, which surprisingly didn't work out too well. The only survivors seem to be these little merchant guys, showing yet again that capitalism truly is the cockroach stage of human evolution. You go on this hellhole of an island is to reach the king because, I don't know, reasons? The game never really tells you why. But hey, questions are for losers anyway, so let's commit some good old-fashioned regicide. To get to the king you traverse different biomes like the Permanent of the Condemned, as well as Miyazaki's wet dream, not only one but 2 different sewer levels, and a swamp in the DSC. Who thought that this is a good idea? Oh, that explains a lot. Welcome to Brighton, full of locals and Londoners going for a swim. And the final place I want to talk about, the Bloodborne DSC Tower, built on order of the king for the Timekeeper, because tier 3 subs really do not suffice when you are the ruler of a whole island nation. The Timekeeper got a name during the Baguette update. She keeps the island in a constant time loop, so it's no wonder that nothing really changes when you defeat the king for the first time. Speaking of the king, while your first route to him will be kinda linear, you quickly unlock runes that allow you to take alternative paths through the game, so you can do the same thing over and over but slightly differently. This is the Metroidvania aspect of the game, although I think it's mainly used for pacing so players don't get overwhelmed with choices in the beginning. Like locking a chimpanzee in your bathroom before slowly opening up your house and eventually releasing it near the local school. But enough about my holidays, let's talk about gameplay! Wake the fuck up, samurai. It's time for your 8 AM tick flattening. Before that, you have to choose a starter Pokemon. No, really. Your choices are Sword, Bow or Shield, which also coincides with the 3 stats, Red, Purple and Green. Brutality being the choice for the testosterone-filled Alpha Man, Tactics for the individuals that favor the American approach, and finally Survival, being a great example for inclusivity by giving boomers a weapon type that matches their speed. Survival players would probably be upset about me saying this, but since there are only 2 of them and both of them are busy raiding Molten Core right now, I don't really care. You can increase your stats by studying foreign literature. These scrolls are scattered around the different biomes. More scrolls make damage go more big, so make sure to be thorough with your research. You know what else is around these biomes? The crackhead enemies. Although I'm kinda confused about the logistics of their mutations. I mean, yeah, this one is a zombie, and this one's got a bow, but where'd the grenade launcher come from? And more importantly, how can I get one? This is where skills come into play. Skills can be really anything from taunting the enemies to turrets or even throwing white phosphorus grenades. I didn't know chucking explosives at rats was a skill, but I would definitely add that to my resume. Doing all of that, the game feels incredible to control. Both movement and combat are S tier, making the sheer act of playing exhilarating. It's probably due to a combination of different things, but I don't want to bore you with a 30-minute analysis on double jumping, rolling, ledge grabbing, dick jerking, and animation cancelled, so you have to take my word for it. When you finish a biome, you can enter one of the pathways to enter the passage to the next one. Most biomes have multiple different pathways, culminating in this monstrosity of a map that probably requires a bachelor's degree to understand. Entering a passage is a brief respite from the chaos, and time for me to dump a bunch of different gameplay systems on you. First of all, you will find the time doors here. These are doors that lock after a certain amount of time has passed. Recently, people praised Neon White for making you experience the joy of speedrunning without the need to stop showering and social interaction, but honestly I think Dead Cells also really nails this feeling of going fast with minimal effort. I mean, you don't need a GMTK video to understand why these doors close after a certain amount of time has passed. Going further, you will encounter the Collector, a trustworthy individual that reminds me of the Albanian man standing on my street corner. Just like my friendly neighborhood merchant, he is fond of trading goods against his wares, giving you the ability to exchange cells for a variety of upgrades and unlocks. These persist after death, which technically makes Dead Cells a roguelite and not a roguelike, but nobody cares. I mean, yeah, technically a guy in a giant lizard costume is a scaly, but everyone's still gonna call him a furry anyway.
I want to die.
If you continue, you will find a blacksmith that can help you reforge your gear, and a CIA agent ready to inject you with radioactive material, so you can acquire different mutations. These give you different buffs, but unfortunately don't make your character look like a hideous mess. Before you leave, make sure to grab a free refill for your health flask at the soda fountain.
Free refills are limited to available stocks and may be stopped at any time.
After that, you will enter the new biome and basically begin the cycle from the beginning. In between, there are also bosses like Conjunctivius, a boss that has the sole win condition of stalling the fight until you die of old age in real life. It also summons tentacles. No, I'm not doing the joke. The run always ends with a fight against fucking Darth Maul. A fair fight with moderate difficulty. Expect somewhere between 2 and 20 hours before you win your first run. So about 4 matches of Overwatch if you queue DPS. Defeating him will unlock your first boss cell, and this is where the game actually begins. Boss cells can be used to increase the difficulty of your runs, going from 0 to 5. Normally games like to adjust the difficulty by twisting some HP knobs and fiddling around the damage slider, but not Dead Cells. No, I mean, yeah, enemies have more HP and they also do more damage, but you know what, how about we throw in some new enemy types as well? Oh, and after they hurt you really need to heal, right? Well, too bad, because fuck you and fuck the Hell Fun, there are no more free refills. This gets only worse with higher boss cell levels, to the point where even the developers acknowledge that no one on their team can beat the game at 5 BC.
I think no one in the team can actually finish the game in this level of difficulty.
No, absolutely. Currently, no.
But if constant anxiety in hell is not your preferred state of being, you can also tweak the difficulty in just about everything with a combination of boss cell level, aspect, accessibility options, and the custom mode, which is great. Presentation. If you possess the privilege of working eyes, you've probably realized by now that this game looks incredibly gorgeous. The backgrounds are beautiful, environments detailed and diverse, and the lighting really sells the whole presentation. I'm also a big fan of the enemy designs, and no, I'm not just simping for the timekeeper, although I do have a weakness for girls with 2 blades. Dead Cells especially stands out from the crowd of other games with a darker setting by not looking like the Insta pose of depressed 14-year-old. Instead, it's really colorful and vibrant. Enemies got gaming RGB, and the whole thing feels like tripping in your local Charles Entertainment cheese restaurant. But the really crazy part is how this game is animated. Animating anything in 2D is a shit ton of work. So the devs said, screw that, we're gonna use 3D and just pixelate everything with a tool we hacked together ourselves, saving probably thousands of hours of work. And it works. The only part that is lacking is visual clarity, meaning sometimes there's just too much happening on the screen and too little distinction between elements. I mean, if you would show this to a medieval peasant, he would probably pass out on the spot and spend the rest of his life in a catatonic state. But enough about visuals. Let's talk about the music. The music fucking slaps! The whole soundtrack is absolutely amazing, but as my father used to say, son, there are 3 moments you will never forget. Your first kiss, your first beer, and when the beat drops on Clock Tower. no idea how hard it is for me to not just play the whole track. Also, I was genuinely annoyed when I realized I haven't used the OST in any of my videos yet, because I usually spend hours trying to find bangers and they're right here. DLC. Dead Cells has 3, well technically 4 available DLC, but Rise of the Giant is free and there's no reason not to have it. All of the DLC add new biomes, enemies, a boss or 2, new items and more. I also want to mention that the game receives free updates every couple of months, so DLC are not the only new content. I'm going to give you a quick fire overview of all 3 paid DLC, with a rating that I conveniently outsourced to the Steam reviews. The Bad Seed. Mushrooms, a whole lot of them. Small mushrooms, big mushrooms, mushroom dance. You can even get your very own mushroom buddy. He hits enemies and follows you around. He can also be sacrificed to skip a boss fight and unlock a new outfit. But trust me, it is not worth it. I have delved into this abyss. Every night I lie sleepless, because the moment I drift into a slumber I can see his face. Hear the screams. Feel the burning gaze of the thousand-eyed tick consuming my sacrifice. Its hunger is ever growing and there's nothing we can do but feed it more souls, hoping to merely delay the inevitable. And for me, there is nothing to cleanse my sins. There is no absolution. There is no salvation. Just the endless spiral of ice, filling my mind, watching me. Oh, and you can unlock a giant bouzouki, which apparently is an instrument popular in Greece. You hit enemies with it to the beat. Subscribe for more instrument facts. I rate it 8 out of 10. Fatal Faults. Breath of the Wild 2 with a sentient murder sword companion. There are also snake-human hybrids that slither around the flying islands. I personally hate them, but I'm sure there's some kind of market for them. There's also the Undying Shores biome, probably one of my favorite places in the game, just based on looks and the fear of progression you get when you descend down the cliff face. If you make it through, you'll fight a gardener scarecrow, one of the harder bosses in the game, and no, I'm not joking. I rated 8 out of 10. The Queen and the Sea, or as I like to call it, Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. It contains some of the best strip you can acquire in the whole game, as well as the usual new stuff, like May from Guilty Gear and the Armored Shrimp. Although I'm honestly not sure if any of the devs has ever seen a shrimp in their life before. There are also 2 different boss fights here. One against the servants, where you ascend a lighthouse and get chased by them, and one against the Queen, which is basically just a JoJo stand. I rated
gamers just hate women
out of 10. In general, I would say while the content per buck spend is alright, you mainly buy the DLC to support the developers continue working on a game that they are clearly very passionate about. I mean, there were 5 major patches in 2022, adding accessibility options, a goddamn bank biome, a new game mode, and the most ambitious crossover since whatever the fuck is happening with Fortnite. And all of that for free for a game that has been out since 2018. So please excuse me if I temporarily remove the shackles of trying to be the funny man online and just say I really enjoy this game. Especially since Dead Cells just feels like guys being dudes, creating a game that they think is fun. For example, they composed an 8-bit remake of the entire soundtrack and put it out as a free update. The game is full of these things, like the option to tailor all food items in the game according to your diet, countless references to games and movies, and the fact that it still continues to get updates years after it's been released. And it doesn't seem to stop either, with the Big Bad Vampire DLC slated for Q1 of 2023, which is still crazy to me considering that they had convinced Konami to do it. I feel like this game will probably continue to live on and thrive. So come and join me, face your own incompetence in this post-apocalyptic Groundhog Day until you eventually ascend above the curse of the Dunning-Kruger effect and realize it doesn't matter if the game is easy or hard, the only thing that matters is if it's fun. Hey, thanks for watching my video. I don't really know what else to say, so subscribe.